There's a reason why my 105 club speed, I would still beat Kyle Berkshire's ass if he went and played.
I agree, yeah.
I can actually confidently say that I would beat his ass.
Folks, I had some bat soup a few days ago, and I'm working through the worst flu of my life. But it's all good. Any other situation, I would have canceled and pushed back the interview a few days. But when you get the Mac O'Grady of Europe on your channel, you go forward at all costs. I got a lozenge in my mouth. I'm sweating profusely. But folks, without further ado, we got Andreas Kali. Andreas, thanks for coming on the show today.
Thanks for having me on, Eric. Thanks for battling through.
Now, everyone kind of knows you as a legend on Instagram. You're mysterious, but you let your students' swings do the talking.
Yeah. It's I don't know. I don't even know how that account got started in the first place. I thought we were doing some cool stuff at some practices, and I started posting it. And I mean, there was never like a plan with it or anything really. It was just kind of fun and games. So it's never really meant to promote me. It's basically just I put swings up and people enjoy it.
Well, to me, it almost seemed like it couldn't be real because the swings were so similar in rhythm and sequence. It looks like AI. Somehow you've put together this system and methodology that typically nowadays everyone wants to be a special snowflake with their swing, like Matt Wolf. You're like, no, I got you kids young, and we're going to build it up the right way.
Yeah, I'd say yes and no, right? So it all depends on the player that shows up. I would say I have a fairly clear model in mind. However, if the student is very good at controlling contact, distance, and direction, we're not going to change stuff just to change it. However, that being said, if I coach a player I see them for 10 years, right? And every now and then they have some issues. I know where to look, and the places that I look and where I will make suggestions or corrections will likely be where I've seen these things work before. So I guess over time, they will look more and more similar. I'd still say there's quite a bit of nuances, but I understand what people say when they say the players look the same.
What people don't realize is you actually have a significant playing background. You started off in Denmark, in a tiny city that's famous for Hamlet. You got a castle there. And
Yes.
now at what age do you become this guy who's obsessed with golf and then you end up in Texas?
I know exactly when I became obsessed with golf. So I played some golf because my uncle and my cousin played, and I was a member of a club, a small club in Elsinore Golf Club. And yes, that is where Hamlet goes on at Kronborg. It used to be in my backyard, that castle. 1997, the Ryder Cup is at Valderrama, and I'm 14 years old at the time. And Thomas Bjorn from Denmark is the first Dane to ever play the Ryder Cup. And I remember exactly where I was. I was at the club watching it with the other members on TV and going, I want to do that. Like, I need to do that. And I would say from that day, I went from a kid who just kind of plays golf to becoming a golfer. So yeah, that was it, right? And then it basically became, I think, 13 years of every time I had to make a decision, asking myself, will this get me closer to the Ryder Cup or further away? And so one of the things was like, I thought the right plan was to go to college in the States. What needs to happen? I need to have a high school diploma. So one of the things was I had to finish high school because that would get me closer to the States, which I thought got me closer to the Ryder Cup. So over time, I ended up was fortunate, received a full scholarship to a small junior college in Waco, Texas, called McLennan Community College, and after that, transferred to the University of North Texas.
And you actually were fairly successful at the University of North Texas.
I was all right. I think they got me at a pretty bad time, if I'm being honest. I feel like I was very successful the first year and a half of junior college. Kind of won a lot of events. Did really, really well. Did well enough to get into the men's national team back home in Denmark. And a coach who was trying to help me basically took me under his wing and said, all right, are you ready to take the next step? And I was. And it went pretty hard downhill for the next year. I think I went from averaging just below 70 to barely averaging below 80 in my first year at Division I college, I was horrible. I could hardly hit the golf ball, and I thought I was on the right track, and I was certainly on the wrong one.
So maybe some of your fascination with teaching a great methodology is this period of struggle that you had.
Oh, for sure. I don't think anybody. I have a huge bias uh, for not making players worse. I will much rather, if I see something I don't understand, I'd rather say nothing and try to understand it, because I know how it feels to go down the wrong rabbit hole and in search of improvement. And I also know the path of art. We're almost there. Give it another 2 weeks, it's going to be great. And working your way through that, I think it drove a lot of my searching and information seeking when I started coaching. I think the main goal was, why was I coached what I was coached, and where did it come from? And led me down some really weird places where people had gotten their information from. I think it also drove me down some sort of path of at least trying to get it right, not trying to get it right, but at least not get it wrong, if I'm being honest, because it's hard to get right when you're dealing with human beings, right? But I don't want anybody to go through what I went through, and I know what not to do. I'm not going to guarantee that anybody becomes tour level golfers, but I think at the end of the day, if they don't, I think that they should be able to look themselves in the mirror, if that's their ambition, to look themselves in the mirror and go, you know what, I gave it my best shot. Because that's honestly what I felt when I stopped playing, and now looking back on it, it wasn't close to being my best shot, but that's what I thought with the information I had at the time, right?
I've got a quote for you, and I want to see if you know who said this. I would still beat Kyle Berkshire's ass if we went and played. I would beat his ass.
It's probably me.
That is in fact correct. That's what you said. So
Yeah.
do you still stand by those words nowadays that you would beat Kyle Berkshire's ass?
Yeah. Well, I don't play anymore, but I mean, I was fortunate enough to play. The only round of golf I played this year was at, wow, now the name's lost on me. It was out in California. It's like rated like the third best course in the world. And that was the first round of golf I played in 2.5 years. And I still had, what did I have? I think I had 6 birdies out there. Um, Shit, what's the name of the course? I got to Google this real quick. Sorry. It
Take your
was
time.
called,
I'm just going to be
eh,
here sweating profusely from a flu. Take your time to Google
I'm
it.
sorry, man. It is called Cypress Point. I played Cypress Point in June
Okay, so my
with
question to you
I
is,
made 6 birdies with rental clubs.
so with all this focus now, like the PGA Tour is focusing on these creator classics, you got all these schlubs in there. Could you focus on a YouTube channel and take out Rick Shields? No problem.
Rick
Peter
Shields, no
Finch.
problem.
Peter
No
Finch.
problem. No
What
problem.
are we doing here? I mean, I still
That's
think the fire's
no,
within
no,
you.
dude. No, no, dude. I'm done. Like I'm done competing. I'm done with the whole thing. I don't. To be really honest, when I look back on it, I don't think professional golf was for me. It's too stressful. It's too risky. When you have the skill level I had, I like being at home. I like being with my family. I think I had my competitive edge. It got figured out. I'm still saying like I wasn't, and I think that's the part, right? Is that I think people misunderstand how freaking good those, I don't know, what is it, 400 guys in the world that actually make a living doing this, like how insanely good they are. Because I'm still saying like I could go at Cypress Point and make 6 birdies with a rental set, and I'm not even close. All right. Now it's not that hard if you get an Instagram channel and you get to hit as many balls as you'd like before you pick the one that you want to post. And I think it's perfectly fine. I think what the guys are doing, to be really honest, I think they're the ones driving golf the most right now. And I think they're the ones getting the most people into the game. You can just see it with the following they have. I mean, I'm in the middle of a driving range, I'm in the driving range in the middle of a racehorse track every day. And the last 2 years, the amount of kids between the age of like 14 and 20 who come down now and hit balls, like that's never happened before. And they're not members of courses. They don't even play golf. They just hit balls. And I think the only reason why they do that is because of Instagram and TikTok and all these things where these guys, I think they're creating the most traffic out of anybody, and they're actually making the game more accessible, introducing it to more people. So I think it's perfectly fine, but don't get it confused. Like they do not have the same skill level. It's not even close.
Now let's get into how you actually got into instruction. At some point, you realized that you didn't want to progress in terms of your professional aspirations. Now you want to be instructor. How did you become the guy that everyone's turning to in Denmark right now?
Well, I would say everybody's not turning to me. I do have a decent group of players that I help that have gotten really good, but I wouldn't. There's a lot of really good coaches in Denmark. What ended up happening was that I quit playing. I became a waiter at a restaurant just to make a salary and get some money. And an old friend of mine was the head pro of the club. He called me up and goes, "You know what? I'm looking for an apprentice. I think you should try it out. I know you've got nothing else to do." So I didn't really want to be like the failed pro who couldn't play, so now he coaches. But went into it with an open mind, didn't have anything else to do really, and absolutely fell in love with it. Felt like the right thing for me, felt like this is what I actually should have been doing all along. It was a good, I don't know, didn't have many bad days. Got up very early in the morning, was excited about my day. I mean, but again, what is there not to be excited about, right? Like you get to help people with what they're passionate about and you get paid for it. And you're standing outside under the sun or under the sky and doing that every day, fresh air. I mean, what's not to like, right? So I became an apprentice. I got, again, started researching the crap that I was taught that made me worse. Started figuring out that what are the absolutes in golf? I think we can be fairly absolute with the ball flight laws. I'm fortunate enough that I live, 15 minutes down the road from the TrackMan headquarters. So decided to become a black belt at that because the physics you couldn't really argue with that. You couldn't argue with impact, right? And you could measure it all of a sudden. I mean, I played with the ball flight laws backwards. I thought when my ball started right and cut, it was because I was swinging to the right. Turned out my path was to the left, but my face angle was really open. And all of a sudden, you actually had a way to say that, right? You could tell, like it was on the machine. This is what happened. Oh, so I wonder why would you ever suggest me to open the face angle more, swing more left when the ball's starting right and cutting? I thought that was really good. I think there was a lot of answers I wasn't getting. And the cool thing was I found out in the coaching community is that there's a lot of people you can reach out to if you have questions that are willing to help. So it did that like night and day. Either I was at work asking my head pro when he couldn't help me, I'd reach out to people online. I'd get on Zoom calls. It wasn't Zoom, it was Skype calls, I think, back then, but like do all these different things, and people were really nice.
It's interesting that you bring up TrackMan because up until TrackMan came out, the whole teaching belief was that your face at impact was the curvature and your swing path was where the ball started, when it was actually the exact opposite.
Yeah, and I remember it. Like the thing came out when I played, and people were like, "You hear about these like open face draws people are able to hit?" And I was like, "Open face draws? What are you talking about?" Right? You're supposed to aim the face where you want the ball to end, and then you swing it where you want it to start. Which is also why when every time I was in the trees on the right and I had to like slice one out there, I'd open the face angle and point at the target, and I'd swing left, and it would hit that freaking tree right in front of me every time.
What was the worst advice that you distinctly keeps you up at night, where you wish that pro hadn't said it to you? Because I'm sure a lot of people who took instruction from David Ledbetter also have these horrible
I don't know.
too.
I'm not. I don't know a whole lot about Ledbetter, so I don't know what he was teaching. But I would say, oh shit, where to start? I would say the very first thing it still makes my is to retract your shoulder blades at setup. So actually, like pull your shoulders back when you set up to the golf ball. I thought that was very horrible advice. I thought I'm going to give you three because I don't know which one's worse. Keeping your entire back in a straight line up through your neck. I think that's pretty horrible advice. I was taught those two things. I think trying to, well, you know what, I'm going to give you the whole thing. I think trying to restrict your hip turn on the backswing, keeping your right leg as flexed as possible as you swing back. I think that's horrible. I think turning your upper body or turning behind, get all your weight onto your trail foot at the top of your backswing, I thought was horrible advice. And then the final one was being able to feel like you're looking into your right palm, throughout your entire backswing and your entire downswing. So the palm stays basically pointing at you of your trail hand. I think if you did all those things, I think you would basically end up exactly where I ended up, hitting the weakest slice you could possibly hit that was going nowhere. I think what basically got me back to playing decent golf again was basically trying to do all the opposite things of this.
We need to file a class action lawsuit because I had the same issues where maintain the flex in the right knee, even almost turn over the right knee.
Yes.
And then nowadays, and a lot of it was from watching a lot of George Gankas videos, just
Yeah.
because these guys are like lengthening and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And when you also look into the stack and tilt methodologies,
Yes.
it seemed like once you see Aaron Baddeley swing, when I saw that, I was like, that's what I want. I want that. I want to look at the little machine. I don't want all this all over the place where I'm Curtis Strange throwing a sack of potatoes down the fairway. I want to be the guy who's just over the thing like a piston.
Yes. And
So
I would agree.
So then how influenced are you by, for example, stack and tilt?
Oh, hugely influenced. Andy Plummer, I consider him my main mentor. I don't think I'd been an apprentice for more than 2 years the first time I met him. I attended like a PGA presentation they did, enjoyed it. They had an extra day whether you could do this network instructor stuff. I did that. And I think I spent from then for the next probably 6 years. I mean, I'd see Andy 3 to 4 times a year. I'd have him on speed dial. He took time out of his day. I probably attended, I don't know, 15 network trainings at least. I've probably seen him coach for live for like 20 full days total. I still think he's a master. I don't think I'd be where I am without him. It's been a while since we saw each other. I haven't seen him since COVID. We still talk every now and then. But I consider him my mentor. I recommend anybody sees him. Now, does that mean that when you attend that, then all of a sudden you have to coach what Andy coaches? I don't think you necessarily have to do that. But I do think that he is, I mean, watching him give golf lessons, I think it's rare you see anybody with more control, with more, who's actually, instead of it just being, because I don't think the swing is fine, but it's more his coaching ability that is absolutely superb. And that's where it becomes more individual. Again, we're dealing with human beings, and if you can't relate to the student, if you can't get the student to actually understand what you're trying to get them to do, it doesn't really matter how good your information is, right?
How far past the ball do you like your students to be making contact with the ground with
an
iron shot?
It depends. Depends on the club they're hitting, depends on the shot they're hitting, depends on how fast they're swinging the club, how fast their ball speed is. I mean, if you're, I don't know, tiny junior golfer. I mean, we have it. We've got, when the boys and girls practice, we've got quite a few TrackMans. And two of the things that are always running, especially with the small kids, is the low point and it is their swing direction. Now, some of these kids are 8 years old. They don't have a whole lot of club speed. So their low point is probably, like with a fairway wood, probably can't be much more than an inch in front of the golf ball. And even if they're hitting the 7-iron, it probably shouldn't be much more than 2, at most 3 inches in front of the golf ball, because they just don't have the ball speed or the club speed to get the ball high enough up in the air, so they have to have a fairly shallow angle of attack. Now, on the other hand, I've got guys that are swinging their 7-iron 105 miles per hour, right? Like big, massive Viking monsters. Now, if they're only bottoming out with a 7-iron 2 to 3 inches in front of the golf ball, that thing is so high up in the air, they have no control, at least not in Denmark, where the air is fairly thick and the wind catches the ball a lot. So those guys, I don't mind if it's 5 to 6 inches ahead of in front of the golf ball. The important part is that when it's on the ground, it needs to be in front and it needs to be in a consistent functional place. But it's not like it has to be in that spot. I would say for average golfers, for your regular golfer, probably 3 to 5 inches in front of the golf ball is probably a good place to start. And probably closer to 3 if you're hitting long irons, and probably closer to 5 if you're hitting short irons. But in that area, it's probably good.
With your students, I often notice that their head is fairly steady, unlike, for example, the Joaquin Neiman, Mito Pereira, even the Justin Thomas. There's up and down motions.
Yeah.
So it seems much more repeatable that way.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, again, right, it becomes a hard conversation because there's the more side bend those guys have, the more open their chest has to be. So I think they do those things fairly well. Now, I don't know if that is something they're taught or if that is just something they do. That doesn't mean that if Mito Pereira or Joaquin Neiman, who are, I mean, let's be frank, they're some of the best ball strikers in the world, right? Or back when they were on the PGA Tour, they were statistically. If they showed up at my place, I wouldn't go, dude, you're doing it wrong. On the other hand, do I think I could be wrong? But if I've got a 10-year-old who shows up swinging the club like that, and I get my hands on him for 10 years, they will likely not do it as much 10 years afterwards. You'll probably still be able to see it's them, but it won't be as much. They won't have as much lateral bend to the right as they come through the golf ball. Why will they not have that? Well, I think honestly over time, I think there's a chance that if you end up putting your spine at end range, you're likely gonna. I think there's a chance you're going to get hurt. Now, I'm not saying that you are going to get hurt, but at least, I mean, I have to think about that. If I know a kid, I'm expecting them to be at my academy for 15 years. I have to have a long-term plan. One of the things is that they don't get hurt.
And we see it with Will Zalatoris, Michael
Yeah,
Torbjornsson, whatever his
yeah,
Michael Torbjornsson,
yeah,
super bend. I mean,
yeah.
sure, you can do that in your 20s, but we both know you hit 35, you're not getting out of bed in the morning like that.
No, I don't know. Like, again, there could be some people that are hypermobile who can do all these different things. I'm looking at it going, yeah, I can see why Will Zalatoris got hurt. And I can also see the changes he's made, which are all the changes I would have made as well. Now that becomes a really tough gig as a coach because I imagine that Will Zalatoris has been a pretty freaking good golfer his entire life. So it can be, I mean, just because I know it and I look at it, you still have to convince a player that this is a good idea. And you have to basically tell a player is that I predict you're going to get hurt down the road. Right now, it's working out really well, but I think we need to make these changes down the road or like along the way. And maybe they're not interested. Maybe they're going to go like, F you, I'm not doing it. And then you just go, all right, well, you know what? Then I guess not, right?
Well, in terms of the way you're instructing these kids, the proof is in the pudding or the Danish yogurt. I want to give you a name, Rasmus Niergaard.
Yeah. Yeah. He's been doing good, man. He just won his third Challenge Tour event, so now he's in Ireland playing tomorrow. I mean, again, right? Like, I think I speak to my colleagues about this. I think at times, I think the coaches I think we might get too much credit, if I'm being honest. Like, how much can we actually improve a player? I think maybe we can make them
Well, I'll put
15,
it this way.
maybe 20% better.
Denmark has less than 6 million people,
Yeah,
0.07 of the world's population. So it's starting to
yeah.
become an anomaly, it's standing out. If I'm understanding
Yeah,
China or India,
there's no doubt. There's no doubt that internationally there's nobody who is outperforming us golf wise.
you're
Nobody.
basically
And I,
you're like the women South Koreans on the tour.
yeah,
There's too
just
many.
the fact
There's
that
too
we
many in
actually,
Denmark.
it
Yeah.
seems like our guys actually kind of love playing the game too. But I think we've got what I do think we have in the entire country is that first of all, we have since we're such a small country, we have actually quite a few really, really well-educated coaches. I think on top of that, I think our coaching community is different than most coaching communities I see, is that we actually enjoy being around each other. We're actually friends and colleagues, and we help each other out. So that means that if I coach a player and they get selected for the boys national team, I know the national team coach. We're friends. And if he gets good enough to also get picked for the men's national team, I also know the head coach there. And we're also friends. And if he gets good enough to turn pro and get into the Danish pro team, I know Thomas as well. And we're also friends. So it's not a competition about who owns players, stealing each other's players, bad mouthing coaches behind their backs and going, nah, did you really tell you that? Like, yeah, that's wrong, blah, blah, blah. That doesn't mean we're all just friendly. We respect each other. If they suggest something to a player that I coach that I disagree with, they're going to hear from me. But it doesn't mean like we're still going to be respectful, but I'm going to ask them like, hey, dude, why would you say that? Like we were in the process of doing this, and they go, oh shit, dude, I apologize, right? So I do think we have a dialogue, and I do think it's a lot easier for a elite golfer in Denmark to progress through that stuff. It wasn't back when I was, what was that, 25 years ago? It was very different, and I know how bad it can feel to be a player like in between two coaches, where you have your home coach and you have your national team coach, and you have to go like you got to please everybody. Because to be honest, it's not about the coaches; it's about the players, and we are there to help the player become best. And I can say that and I don't think we're great at it in Denmark, but there's nobody better. I think the other countries are so freaking awful at it. It's insane that I've met. It's crazy how bad it is. And we're without a doubt the best in the world at that.
That's what Netflix should be doing, is going behind the scenes in other countries and seeing all the real golf coaches of Nicaragua or what have you, and just seeing
Yeah.
people just being catty and petty.
Mm-hmm.
But so now you get these junior kids in. They're all coming in droves now because of Instagram and what have you, and they want to get trained up. My understanding is, unlike the current focus on getting shallow, you actually focus on being steep first, and then you shallow it out over time.
Well, yeah, I would say yes and no, right? So it depends. I think I don't even know where I said that, but I would just say like in the order of making corrections. If somebody is in let's say they are in a fairly neutral spot, but the way they're getting there, as an example, let's say they have excessive side bend coming into the golf ball, which is a shallowing move, right? Let's say they do that and we have to fix it. We probably, more than likely, if we're going to make those changes, we probably have to make a decision if we have to do these things in twos. What do we do first? Do we do the part that makes you bottom out further back and swing more to the right, which is what I would call a shallowing move, whether that is laying the shaft down or side bending to the right or whatever that could be? Or is it turning your chest more? Is it staying in left side bend a little bit longer? Is it these different things? Or is it basically holding on to wrist angles a little longer or doing these different things? That's what I would say that my experience tells me that it is easier doing the steepening moves first. Reason being, it's really, really hard to sell a player on hitting the ground behind the ball or topping it and go, yeah, dude, just wait until we get the next part. Whereas as long as we're hitting like kind of low pulse, that's perfectly fine, especially for junior golfers who tend to swing too far to the right. If we can just hit low pulse first, then we can add some of the stuff that maybe is the forearm rotation or right arm straightening or whatever it is that moves that swing direction or that baseline more to the right.
In terms of the grip, can we both
Yeah.
agree that McIlroy is known as having a stronger left hand and a slightly weaker right hand? McIlroy has
Yeah.
kind of like a little bit of semi-butterfly grip,
Yes.
but you're not a fan of that grip.
No, I wouldn't prefer it.
Well,
Um,
you actually like it, maybe even a little bit. Some players a little weak, and the right hand a little strong.
Yeah, you know what? If I had to like put my money, what I really like is neutral. All right, like I like middle of the road neutral stuff. But if I had to make a decision between somebody who's got a strong left and a weak right, or somebody who's got a weak left and a stronger right, I prefer the weaker left, stronger right. So I would prefer the Colin Morikawa, Jordan Spieth. Who else? Well, Sebastian Friedrichsen, who I coach, is on the DP World Tour, who's one of the best iron players I've ever seen. Victor Sidel, who just got a Battlefield promotion from the Nordic League because he won 3 times. Now he's on the Challenge Tour. I think some of the best strikers of the ball that I coach, they showed up with weak lefts and fairly strong rights, and I think they're really, really good golf. John
When did,
Rahm's got it as well, right? Like kind of a weakish left, strong right.
well, that grip to me almost makes the most sense because how your body works. Now you're going
Yeah.
to have your whole muscles like stabilizing the club faces versus this butterfly thing where you kind of it forces your elbows kind of out.
Yeah. Yeah, I would look at it more like what does it do to the club? I think you can, if you took a strong left, a fairly weak right, you'd basically put both your wrists in kind of extension, right? What that gives you, the range of motion that basically gives you is it can give you a lot of, if you extend both those wrists, what does the club do? It moves straight up towards your nose, right? Which is basically, if we then start moving that around, so I move to my side, then all of a sudden that's what gives me that shaft that looks like this. because I get so much range of motion in that direction. Whereas if I actually had a fairly weak left and a fairly strong right, I can't do a lot of radial, which is not really radial. Well, it is radial deviation. Then all of a sudden, I can't move the club up a whole lot. But what I can do is I can move the club back a whole lot. And it just seems like there's less work to do with the hands. There's still plenty of work to do with the hands, but it seems like it's less, especially down at the bottom of the swing.
Earlier, you had discussed that you realized you actually hadn't worked hard enough to become to fulfill your full potential. When you're working with kids nowadays, a lot of them think, hey, I'm working hard enough, but you can actually tell them, hey, dude, you got to triple the output. You got to do X, Y, and Z, and you're not even close.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate.
When do you
what was the next question?
No, well, just essentially, when do you match the goals of your students with an actual work program, like the output that they're going to need to do? Because if some kid comes to you and says, hey, I want to be a pro, and you show him, okay, well, for the 50 hours a week, you'll be doing this. How many of the guys just back out after that?
I would say some, right? So there's actions speak louder than words, right? So a lot of players say what they want, right? I mean, especially when they're young. I mean, if you're 12 years old and you're going, I want to be number one in the world, right? They can, I mean, to be honest, they might as well say, I want to be Iron Man when I grow up or some shit. Like it doesn't, like at that time, you're trying to just make them have fun and make sure that they progress and do their things. However, they come to a time when, like, if they keep saying that when they're 12, they're 13, they're 14, they're still saying it, you got to have a sit down and you got to have a talk, right? About like the exact, like what you put in, not only the hours you put in, but how you put the hours in. Like, how present are you? Are you challenging yourself? It's not just about beating balls. It's actually about trying to improve yourself at all times, right? It's demanding more. It's if we're doing tests and you complete the test, be happy that you're on the right track, but then let's like make the next test or the goal for the next test harder, right? If you're succeeding on the first try and all these things we're doing, you probably didn't learn anything new. You can probably already do it. So I think through that, I think we have a lot of conversations. I think we also have conversations where we sit down and go, all right, what's the goal? Some of them was, dude, I just want to be club champion. I want to play for the first team at my club or something like that, right? And I'm perfectly good with that. And then I probably won't set the demands as high for you. Then I'm probably good if you're missing workouts. It's probably fine. We can probably still win a club championship. On the other hand, you got a player, the Jakob Skålesen, who just won the amateur, right? He was at our high school program. He lived up there for 4 years. He kept telling me that he wanted to be the best in the world. And we had a boatload of arguments because we had workouts at 6:30 in the morning and he only showed up half the time. I go like, dude, like one or two things need to happen. Like either we set different goals or you start showing up. You can't do both. Because right now, I can't tell you exactly what to do to get number one in the world, but I can tell you what not to do. And I can tell you when you're not putting in the work. I can tell you when you're practicing with headphones on, listening to music, that's not going to work. Now you're just putting in hours, but not hours where you're present. You're missing the auditory feedback. You're actually like kind of halfway thinking about something else than what you should be thinking about. You're missing your workouts. You're not going to do it, especially him because he's physically not that gifted. He needs to put in the work. So we'll have these conversations. Again, they can change, right? So that's just the conversation we have is like at times when, like motivation drops and all of a sudden there's other interests and stuff. It's like, dude, is this still the same goal? Yeah. All right. Well, then we need to ramp up the hours again, right? Because you're saying it, but you're not showing it. And I don't want them to be disappointed and thought that they put in the work when they didn't.
What kind of gym workouts and calorie intake are your top guys doing right now? People will be surprised.
Yeah, I would say the ones that take it serious, they're at least throwing in 3,500 calories a day. They are also, if they're trying to put on weight, they're probably plus 4,000 daily, which is quite a freaking lot. I would say the guys that are good at doing their physical training, I'd say they go in season, they likely go to the gym 3 to 4 times a week. I would say some of them are freaking good, like Markus Hellikilde, who plays on DP World Tour. I don't think he misses the gym one day. I think he's in the gym 7 days a week. Some of it might just be rehab work and stretching, but he's in a gym 7 days a week, tournament weeks, whatever. Now, I'd say wintertime, where we have a 6 month winter, they're likely like lifting weights 6 days a week.
This is important because to me, the era of the Kevin Kisners, this ain't no hobby, are over. You got
Yeah,
that kind of slow club head speed. You hit the ball like a woman, dude. I'm sorry.
yeah,
Professional golf
yeah.
isn't for you. What how important is the speed nowadays? And what do you think the minimum club head speed, ball speed is to be competitive on any of these professional tours?
Good question. We can Google that.
I
There's,
think
I
it was like
mean,
116, 117, and like 165, but
we
that's
if
now.
we just go on the PJ Tour, I mean, you can just go. There's the stats and there's the
Right.
metrics, right? And you can just go. I mean, the minimum would be what's the lowest ball speed who is playing on tour right now. I would say.
It's Brian
Now,
Harmon.
are
Give me
you?
Brian Harmon.
Yeah, it's
That
probably
guy
down
that,
there, isn't it?
that guy's got like a very soft swing.
Yeah, yeah, and that's what I mean. Like, and again, right? So it's hard to generalize because there's some guys. I mean, I think there's an entry, right? So Ches Reeves got 162 mile per hour ball speed. So I guess that's the minimum limit. He's had a
Yeah,
pretty good career.
but I think you guys. We're also thinking of the
Matt,
future. These guys are only getting
yeah,
faster
I
and
got you.
faster.
I understand. I understand, and it's a major competitive advantage if you're in the 180s. There's no doubt. Now, I won't. I'm not stupid enough to say that if you're not within that, you can't make it. I'm just saying you because really the ball speed, if it is anything, it's potential. I've got a dude who can go 205. All right, he doesn't. He's playing Nordic League events. So again, that's why I feel confident playing Kyle Berkshire. I don't know Kyle, by the way, but I'm just saying. And my ball speed is probably, I don't know, shit, 155. All right.
I want to see this match. I think. I mean, I think
His
Kyle
ball,
Berkshire would accept this
his
because
club,
he's
his
talked a
club
lot of
speed's
smack
my
to
ball
him.
speed.
But
He swings his club as fast as my ball's going. All right. No, but what I'm saying is, I would say that you probably need to have a. I would put the minimum probably at 165, which would be very low. And I'd pay attention if somebody's at 165. I'd go, dude, we probably need to try and make this a priority to get at least over 170 because it's a major advantage. On the other hand, there's a ton of guys who aren't at that ball speed, who aren't at 180, who are still. Brian Harmon won the freaking Open. All right, so it can't be all ball speed. There's
but
other
again,
things
that's
too.
the Open. It's always a little bit of an asterisk course because he didn't really win
Oh,
before that. So
well,
he
fair
can
enough.
kind of float around.
Zach Johnson won the Masters.
I think it was weird weather conditions that year, but okay.
I got you, but he still won it. Danny
Right.
Willett won the Masters. He's not a bomber either. I'm not saying it's not a competitive advantage. I'm just saying if you don't have that, then you've got to be really, really good at something else. Something else has to overrule that.
But you have
Because
Fitzpatrick, who was bagging on Bryson DeChambeau. He didn't really think that
yeah, yeah,
and then he immediately hires a whole team to get club head
yeah,
speed. A little bit
for sure.
sneaky move. That was sneaky.
Yeah. But again, it was a huge competitive advantage what he did, and what he picked up was without a doubt the low hanging fruit in his game, where he could improve the most in the shortest amount of time. When you putt like him, it's really hard to putt better. But however, you look at his ball speed and you go, dude, like that's like there's 15 extra in there if you put in the work. So of course he's going to do it.
Because he does not look physically gifted. He's out there hitting
No,
balls with no shirt on.
no,
So that
no.
makes me think that any Danish kid, you got a healthy
Yeah,
diet out there. There's probably a lot of
yeah.
omega-3 in the fish. These kids are easily with the put in the work and with the speed work can go above that. So it doesn't seem to me like why you would want to be like a big dude like a Nick Faldo, but then be one of the shorter hitters.
No, there's no doubt, and that's also what I'm saying. I'm just saying that because I mean, I think we're the second. I think we're the second tallest country in the world behind the Netherlands. I think we're big, like in general. I'm one of the smaller guys, and I'm like 6 feet, right? Um, so of course we have potential to hit the ball further. We have larger wingspans. We have bigger people, especially my boys. They're in an environment where people like they spend time hitting the ball hard. So people are inspired. They're trying to pick up more speed. Most of them, as soon as they leave Denmark, they go, dude, I'm hitting it past everybody besides the guys I practice with. Now, so it's for sure a priority. I'm just saying it can't be. There's guys in the DP World Tour. There's Soren Kelsen. He's like the defending champion at World County Down. I hit it further than Soren, all right? The guy's he's had 700 starts on the DP World Tour, and he does not have that ball speed. So there's other ways to compete. Now, I think the ball speed is potential. You have larger potential the higher your ball speed is. It's no guarantee.
Your boys play hockey.
Yeah.
What's going on there?
I think it was healthy for them to play team sports.
It's weird
To
because
be,
then you had Andre Agassi's kid. He's playing baseball,
yeah.
and I don't know. Okay,
Yeah, I don't. I think, to be honest, I think I've been in the competitive environment in golf for so long as a player and now as a coach. It's very, very competitive, which is great. I enjoy the competition. However, I think for 99% of people, that's not what golf is. And I think over time, I've misunderstood that actually, like, the really cool part about golf, it's like skiing in the summer. Like, it's something you can do with friends. You can travel, you can play, you can talk, you can hang out, you can have something to drink afterwards and have a great day out in the fresh air, enjoy the nature, all these things. That is not the golf I've been a part of for 28 years now. My boys play golf like that. Like, we go and play golf and hang out with no goals of becoming anything whatsoever. We just play some golf. What they are competitive in is ice hockey, and that is a team sport, which I think is healthy.
it's interesting to me that Denmark has 8 months of winter. You got to practice a lot indoors, but would you say it's the second most popular sport?
Well, it's not that crazy because it's super affordable. So it's not really that crazy to me. The golf clubs in Denmark there's very few of them that are private, which are for profit. The rest are non-profits. So a regular membership for an adult member that gives you free golf balls, free playing rights, everything is less than $1,000 a year for an adult. And for kids, it's probably like $120 a year, and they even they get free range balls. They can play as much as they want, and then they get like an hour of tuition a week in groups with a pro. So of course it's large because it's affordable.
To me, that's kind of the key to growing the game because every other sport, if it's not affordable, it doesn't grow. That's why, soccer, you
No,
throw a ball around, you can play it anywhere. Golf in the States, not so much, especially now
no,
that the golf club prices are insane.
yeah, it's pretty much besides Denmark and Sweden, it is quite. I'd say there's probably places I'm missing, but Denmark and Sweden, it's affordable. The rest of the world where I've gone to, the people I've played with are rich.
Could you give us a mental life tip and a mental golf tip for how you deal with an 8 month winter?
I'm trying. I'm still trying to figure it out. Golf tip wise, I think it's fairly easy. I think you got to think about, what do I have in front of me? What can I do? I think sometimes if you want to make like technical improvements, sometimes removing the target can be pretty good early on. So I do think you can spend quite a bit of time hitting into nets and get something good out of it, as long as you know what you're doing and what you're looking for. If you have a launch monitor with you or simulator, you can get some really good work done, I think, to get an understanding of your golf swing and your technique, and knowing, like, if I do this, the ball should be doing this, or the path should be doing this, or the angle of attack should be doing this. I'm still trying to figure out how to get through it's not an 8 months winter, it's 6 months, but getting through 6 months winter, I'm trying to figure out still. At the moment, where I'm at is I'm trying to stack the odds in my favor. That means that I am trying to load up on vitamins already right now. I'm trying to get some really good habits in with doing a bunch of cold showers. I do a lot of breath work. I try to, even when it's dark outside, I try to get in at least like 30 minutes of fresh air, of gardening, actually, is what I'm doing. And then I think vitamin D. And to be honest, I think those stack the odds in my favor. To me, January is pretty freaking rough, if I'm being honest. Like, it's been dark and cold for a long time. The next suggestion is, because that's what I do as well, is when I can feel it's dark, I go somewhere warm for a week where the sun shines and I just can get like just a little bit of sunlight. Because to me, it's super rough.
It would be better if it was like the movie Aliens, where you can get in one of those pods and they just put you to sleep for like 3 months and you pop out again.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
then,
And that's exactly right. That's the next thing I'm kind of trying to work out. I have a little corner in my garden where I can actually, like, I think there's a chance I can install an infrared sauna. And I think that might also do the trick. Like, I'm really trying to, like, every winter I'm like, all right, this is going to be the year where I just blaze through this winter, and it's going to be great, and it's going to be with a smile on my face and a great mood. And I haven't quite worked it out yet. I think this might be the year.
Andreas, this is awesome. You're the most mysterious instructor on Instagram, the Mac O'Grady of Denmark. To
Well,
reach
can
you,
I say something about that?
absolutely.
I am actually trying to become a little bit less mysterious. What I'm trying to do, and I'm working on it, I'm trying to build up my website, and I'm actually trying to start putting like some super affordable videos online that are going to be available for purchase, where I think people that have all kinds of questions and want lessons, because my skillless lessons are super expensive. And I understand that. It's just a matter of like time and demand and all these different things. But I'm trying to put this up, and it's going to take a little while, but I think there's going to be some video stuff for coaches coming in like mid-September. And then like once a month, I'm going to upload something new on like my favorite ways on learning how to draw a golf ball, or how to cut a ball, or how to spin a ball, or how to add club speed, and how to do all these different things, which are basically just taken straight out of our academy. I think it can help people out, and I think I can do it in a way where it's quite affordable, and people who would want to get my information would be able to get it at a very decent rate.
When is this happening? I've watched your videos and you're not speaking English, you're speaking Danish in them, and I'm still
Yeah,
picking up stuff. And you're like, it sounds like Lord of the
yeah,
Rings for me, but what have
yeah.
you?
These are going to be in English. I think the first one, that's going to be pretty much for coaches, which is a pretty expensive one. It's like a full 2-day seminar that I recorded. It's coming out in about a week. And then these things are going to come out about once a month.
This is amazing timing.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's,
not been
you know
getting
what?
this
I,
kind of
I
access.
usually don't have anything to plug, but this time I actually did.
This is awesome. I want you to plug this. I want you to take this and get wealthy off of this system.
Yeah,
Again, folks,
I want
this
to
is
help as
coming
many I
out.
can.
This is happening live right now. I'm still sweating ridiculously. Final question for you, Andreas, before we
Yeah,
go. How do you feel about Tommy Fleetwood copying your look?
I'm all right with it. I think he looks great.
Boom.